The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
As Jesus continued his journey to Jerusalem, he traveled through Samaria and Galilee. As he was entering a village, 10 lepers met him. They stood at a distance from him and raised their voices, saying, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And when he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." As they were going, they were cleansed. And one of them, realizing that he had been healed, returned, glorifying God in a loud voice, and he fell at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Jesus said in reply, 10 were cleansed, were they not? Where are the other 9? Has none but this foreigner returned to give thanks to God? Then he said to him, "Stand up and go. Your faith has saved you." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus. You know, to be grateful, if we look at the word gratefulness, it is so related to grace, to free, something free given, and we are grateful. It's so related to gratis. But to be grateful, somehow you need to be aware. It is an exercise of the heart and the mind. You need to be aware about the blessings, about the gifts received, that an awareness that something good has happened to us, that something good have been received by us. And that is why the confirmandi receive a gift of the Spirit, awe and wonder. And often they don't know what does that mean, awe and wonder. It is a gift of the Spirit to experience awe and wonder, an awareness of gratitude, an awareness of giving thanks. And the story that we have heard in today's Mass, the first story, a healing of an official from Syria, and the other story from Jesus, another healing of 9 lepers. And so let us dwell in these stories of healing, honoring a doctor, apostle, and evangelist, St. Luke. And in the story of Naaman, he was a high official and made a long journey to Little Israel, thinking of protocol, thinking of being well received as a royal official. Finally, he found the prophet that he was after, Elisha. And when he encounters Elisha, he was thinking that he would have all kinds of protocol and procedures so that he could be healed from the leprosy. And Elisha simply tells him, go into that ditch that is in front of you. And the royal official, a very righteous man, a very good man, he was sort of bewildered that after that long journey, all what he had to do was simply to come down to that ditch of water. And thank goodness, his servants, he came with a whole entourage. His servants told him, do it. You came so long. Just do it. And let's see. And he listened to the little ones and went down. And as he came up, as he rose up, he was healed from the leprosy. It is very beautiful to listen again to this story because he doesn't thank immediately Elisha. He honors the God, the only God, that Elisha is the representative of the servant of the only God, the God of Israel, the one God. And he honors God who healed him through the waters of healing. It reminds me of the waters of Lourdes, the waters of healing. And he's so grateful that he recognizes his healing with great amazement, with awe and wonder. How great is our God, how great. When we look at the story of the 9 lepers, they come toward Jesus because Jesus had the reputation of a healer. And so they came to Jesus, even far more important than Elisha. Greater than Elisha is Jesus the Christ. And they come, and Jesus says, go to the temple, to the priests. And as they go, in the way, they are healed. As I was meditating the text, I wonder, why didn't Jesus heal them immediately? And I leave you that as a homework for you. Why wasn't it immediately that somehow Jesus prepared that pause of time, and of all of them, only one returns? And St. Luke makes a point to tell us that he was a foreigner. He was part of that section of Samaria who were not in good standing with the Jews, because they came from another tradition from them. Why does St. Luke makes a point that he was a foreigner? Well, I think one possible answer could be that St. Luke had always a passion to include those who were on the margins. At his time, he was out of his way to include women, because in a patriarchal society, women were put aside, and Luke will always bring the women into the story out of his sensitivity for inclusion. And so he makes a point. The only leper who returned was a Samaritan, a foreigner. And this Samaritan gives thanks to Jesus in gratitude. And Jesus asks a question that is extremely relevant to all of us. And he says, one return, how about the 9? And that question should remain in the horizons of our concerns. Why only one? And perhaps it could be applied to us individually, each one of us. Perhaps we are grateful of certain blessings, but how about the other blessings that we never recognize and that we never are grateful for? Or it could be why only 20% of Catholics come on Sunday, the day of the Lord, and why all the others only come in Christmas and Easter? Why? When Mass is thanksgiving, is gratitude to bless the Lord in His graces, in His blessings. Why only 20%? It's a question that if we reflect on that wonder of Jesus, why only one and not the others, is an invitation to a greater gratefulness in our lives, to a greater recognition in our lives for the good things that God does in our journey, in our history. I remember a very spiritual priest, Father Aschenbrunner, wrote an article on the examination of conscience. You are aware that the examination of conscience is an invitation, often at the end of the day, to look and ask for forgiveness for failures or for omissions that we may have committed during the day, and to ask for forgiveness. Father Aschenbrunner says, in your examination of conscience, pay more attention to all the blessings that God has given you in that day. Recognize those blessings because they are the sign of the love of God in your life. And if you do that day by day, you will grow in gratefulness. You will grow in that awareness of giving thanks. No wonder Jesus, in the Last Supper, when he said, the Gospel of St. Luke tells us, he took the bread, he took the cup, he raised his eyes and gave thanks. In Greek, eucharistein, and he gave thanks. So even his sacrifice, the meal of sacrifice, even as he was anticipating his gift at the cross, he gave thanks to the Father, to his beloved Father, for the gift that he was to give to the entire humanity, for as the Redeemer of humankind. Yes, John Paul II has a phrase that means a lot to me. He says, let your life be a Magnificat. Let your life be a Magnificat. You know, you are aware that Magnificat is the song of Mary when she visited Elizabeth in her visitation. And then she is a song of praise to God for the wonderful things that God does in her life, the poor servant. And John Paul says, let your life be a Magnificat, a life of praise, a life of great deeds, a life of virtues, a life of participation and solidarity. Let your life be a Magnificat. You know, José Tolentino Gonsalva, the youngest cardinal recently chosen by Pope Francis, he's a great writer. And I read a book recently, a book of this young cardinal, José Tolentino Gonsalva from Portugal. And in one of his chapters, he tells a story of a little paper found in Auschwitz. And you are aware of the great tragedy of Auschwitz, the terrible killing of people by a culture that was so civilized. That's the scandal. The German culture, so smart, so civilized. Scientists doing that and killing a portion of humanity. And there was a little paper found, and in that paper, the author the unknown author, says, Lord, when you come to judge this population, do not only look at their atrocities, rather look of the patience that was in our hearts as we were suffering. Take a look at the forgiveness that you gave to our hearts as we were being attacked in such a way. Take a look at our love of one another, supporting one another as we were afflicted and led to death in such a brutal way. Look at the heart that offered our lives out of this tragedy. This is an amazing text of someone who was being led to death in such an unjust way, but yet had those wonderful thoughts of gratitude and thanksgiving. Amen. Let's stand and renew the faith of the church as we say, I believe. Spirit, the Lord and giver of life, who proceeds from the Father and the Son, who with the power of the Son is adored and glorified, who has spoken to the prophets. I believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. I confess one baptism for the forgiveness of sins, and I look forward to the resurrection of the dead, and the life of the world to come. Dear friends, today in our parish we celebrate